Good evening and welcome to the April 4th Historic Preservation Commission meeting. We'll go ahead and start with the roll. Christy, would you roll, please?
Casey Sampson.
Present.
George Piper.
Here.
Nicole Weathington. Here. Scott Allen.
Present.
Andrew Anderson.
Present.
All right, thank you. And we'll move to approval of minutes from, looks like, is that February's, or just March's?
It's March.
March's
Yes.
minutes, okay. So the March minutes.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. All right, and we'll go to old business. Is that a new business, I believe? I don't think we have any old business. We'll go to, I think it's new business. So that's okay. Switch that around here. So we have a certificate of appropriateness for 118 South Meridian Street, storefront renovations and addition. We'll hear from staff first.
Sorry about that snafu on the agenda. Just FYI, I think this is our first meeting since the upgrades in the room here. The mics are ultra sensitive. FYI. Under your breath, ultra sensitive. All right. 118 South Meridian Street. The applicant tonight is Moody Pearl LLC. Jordan Moody is the owner of that corporation. The address is 118 South Meridian Street, Lebanon, Indiana 46052. The property is zoned central business. This property has not been before the Historic Preservation Commission. Classification is contributing, a building which is less than 50 years old and which is compatible with its historic surroundings, or a building which is over 40 years old and whose historic character remains but does not rise to the level of notable or outstanding. This building is included in the National Register of Historic Places, Lebanon Courthouse Square Historic District. It is listed in the National Register District as a non-contributing structure. The action requested tonight is for storefront renovations. The applicant is requesting a certificate of appropriateness to renovate the front east-facing wall and rear west-facing wall elevations of the building, including an addition to the footprint in the rear that will move the building face even with the neighboring buildings. On the front of the building, the applicant will remove the limestone bricks on the front lower half and take the front facade back to its original brick front. In addition to removing the limestone, the applicant is proposing to move the door flush with the front of the building. This matches the artistic rendering found in the downtown building facade study used in several renovations approved by this commission. The brick needed for renovations on the front elevation will be used from brick currently found on the rear elevation. The rear elevation will be carefully demolished to allow an addition to the rear of the building, pushing the elevation flush with the neighboring structures. The rear wall will have a parapet extending 3 feet above the roof line. Behind the parapet is where the AC units will be installed to keep them screened and out of sight. The roof will be replaced in full. Brick needed for the rear wall will be sourced from Curley Brothers Masonry, and there is an example attached in your packet received. Windows and doors are aluminum, black in color. 2 identical wall signs are proposed in the front and rear and downlit by a gooseneck sconce. Staff understands why the proposed manipulations in the application make sense and feel that the applicant has proposed something that is sensitive to the impact of these changes. The current usable square footage of the building is roughly 325 square feet. The addition will add roughly 175 square feet of usable interior space. The quality of materials proposed in the manipulation of the front and rear elevation will give it a seamless transition to the neighboring buildings. Windows that have been bricked over in the adjacent building within the current courtyard in the rear will be affected and will not be usable in the future. Since these windows are filled with brick, staff is comfortable with the addition to the rear. Staff made a request that the applicant was to provide consent forms from the current property owners acknowledging the permanent changes, which those are included. Staff believes the proposed changes do not have a negative impact on the district or the building. Staff recommends approval of the COA as submitted. Let me show you some of the elevations as the attachments. These are pictures of the current storefront. You can see the limestone brick on the lower half that was referenced in the staff report, and you can see the offset entry with some sort of flagstone that was installed somewhere over time as leading up to the front door. There is the rear courtyard that was mentioned with the AC units tucked behind this vinyl partition with a strange door in the middle of it that apparently gives access for those AC units. Here are the elevations of the proposed changes. As you can see, this is the front, bringing the brick down to the storefront, the first floor, if you want to call it that, elevation, with the black aluminum storefront door structure. The sign there in the front with the light sconce. And there is the rear, very complementary to the front. Same idea, black aluminum windows, sign, sconce, all the same, so it matches very nice. You can see the dimensions there. I'm not dealing with a very wide building at all. About 11 feet or so, is that right?
Yeah, 11 feet.
Yep. Just to give you an idea as a reference, this is, you've seen this, most of you have seen this before, this study, but this is the picture found in the downtown study for the artistic renderings that we refer to quite often, that have been well received by everybody involved in the district. So you can see in this picture, they also bring that front door structure out to the face of the building. You know, that offset door in the current setting just doesn't allow for any usable space in there. I mean, there's some display cases that are, I think you have to be an Ewok to be able to fit in there and get anything into it. So, ultimately staff worked with the applicant for several weeks, back and forth on what would be appropriate for this building. The size of the building made reuse extremely difficult. So adding some square footage to the building, although might not be exactly what you want to see in historic preservation, certainly does make the building more usable. And I think as we've talked over some of these applications, reusing a building is just as important as preservation. If you don't use the building, you risk losing the inventory of the vacant buildings because of deterioration over time. So I believe this is a respectful application to manipulate the building. So that's all I have. The applicant is here to answer any questions that you might have for him.
Any questions for staff?
I have a question. On the elevation, it's the proposed elevations that were submitted, noted as the front and rear. They show a brick reveal above the entry there. I just wanted to ask, trying to understand where that's being located. I think with some of the material being removed and brick being added back, I'm curious if that will be coordinated with where material is being removed to help navigate some potentially noticeable changes in brick.
Yes, thank you for the question. And I was actually hoping I'd have a conversation with you guys on what this looks like. So we're gonna obviously remove all of that limestone looking facade there. And the first architect I talked to was under the impression of maybe it's damaged along there, and so that would be a nice place that we could do an inset. I've spoken to a couple architects since then that have recommended maybe like a soldier course, which I think is just the vertical bricks to kind of do some sort of tasteful separation that would kind of tie it all in together. So I wanted to see what your guys' position was on if we get this approved tonight and then we open it up and we think, oh, wow, it may be better off doing a soldier course or something like that, what that looks like, or if we just need to do exactly what we said in that drawing, et cetera.
I think both, in my opinion, would be acceptable solutions, and I think it's a smart approach.
Right. And one other thing that kind of ties in with that question, if you look at the back of the building, if you had that same drawing pulled up, we had a scupper designed on so if we go to the second page of that, I've now since talked to an architect to where we've got that gutter system on the left side, and the conversation that they've been having is that's going to get clogged up very easily because it's only one brick width wide, and so all of the rainfall from the roof is trying to go from that entire square footage into a 6-inch diameter spot. What they recommended doing, and I can get drawings made, actually I'm having the drawings made as well. They recommended doing the scupper more across the middle and maybe doing like gutters going across and then down both sides, and that would allow for more water to pass through, and it would just be a black gutter system just like what's there, and it would be behind the sign, but I mean obviously it would divert across as well. So I'll have those drawings done, but that was his recommendation just based off of he thinks that could lead to leaks and water coming back into my building if it's all just getting stopped there. So obviously I can, once I have those drawings, I can resubmit them, send them to Derek or whatever. So, yeah. Would that be sufficient if I got those to send them to Derek and see what his thoughts are, or do I need to come back in front of the board after that? I'm talking to you, okay.
I think that's up to the commission with that. I would agree that gutter, having one brick is pretty small. Having that flat roof, there's a lot of water, a lot more water than what you might think comes off those roofs.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned too about having a gutter on either side, what that would do potentially to your door and window placement.
Yeah. Well, when I get the drawings, I'll send them back over, and if it's your opinion that we need to go back in front of the board, I can do that at that time, so.
Yeah, I think that gives me pause as well, just architecturally. We don't want to give guidance, of course, on range. First and foremost, it's got to perform. But aesthetically, having the continuous gutter behind the sign, it'd be good to see that resolved before it gets approved.
Okay. So can we get a approval today based off the current design, or do we just alter the design in a minor manner of saying instead of a 6-inch thing, let's go 3 bricks wide on the left side, and now you've got 18 inches of, scupper that it would drain out that way, if that would be the board's position?
How soon are you expecting to get those renderings back?
That's a good question. Maybe next week, maybe the week after, but here in the next week or so. I can call them tomorrow.
I personally would feel more comfortable seeing those renderings before giving an approval on the back. On the front side, I think either solution is good, so I don't want to stop you from doing any work, but I don't know if they both have to be at the simultaneous time. So, that's something we could do too. Derek, would you be okay with if we split that? Is that even an option to do 2 different?
Yeah, so these changes are new to me tonight to hear this as well. So I guess the question, Jordan, is what's your construction schedule?
I do not have a construction schedule. My plan is I need to get the COA tonight, hopefully, and then I will go in front of the state and get permits, go in front of the grant committee would be my next step to find out what monetarily we're gonna look at. Once I have that news, I will set my construction schedule. But I don't wanna say anything now because I wanna know what the financials are before.
Is that the RDC? Is that where?
I think that's
Okay,
right.
Okay.
Yeah, so, as far as the RDC application goes, we have to have 2 estimates for each element that qualifies for the grant. I don't have those yet. So if we're looking at tabling the decision, it would be a May 2nd HPC meeting, and then likely a June RDC meeting. You have to have the COA from the HPC in order to move to the RDC. So I understand the concern, but if you're going to change that and the commission wants to see those renderings before they make a decision, that's going to be the outcome.
I think what we could do is approve what has been submitted if we're comfortable with the current design as shown. It gives you the flexibility that if you can make it work as designed, then you can move ahead.
Oh, his thing died.
It's dead. Okay. Any rate, I think we could approve what is currently submitted if we're all comfortable with what we're seeing. And that would give you the flexibility to move ahead if you can make it work as designed. If you can't, you would have to come back, I presume, and submit updated elevations for approval. Is that correct, Eric?
That would be my preference, because it would be an amendment after, basically, I'll get approvals with everybody based off of that, and if the architect and everybody deems that that's the route we should go, then obviously I would have to go to you guys first, because and everybody else.
Yeah, I heard you mention the option of just making that scupper a little bit wider.
Correct.
I don't think that affects this approval tonight. Yeah, I don't think it makes any difference if it's 1 brick wide or 2 brick wide or 3 brick wide for that matter. Just a bigger, scupper gutter, if you want to call it at that point, dumping into that one downspout. I think that would make a lot of sense. Personally, I think if you're going to have something that's running across, I think that might get a little funky.
Yeah.
My preference would be to look at the bigger opening on the left-hand side to where it all drains properly.
And I'm fine with that, and I will have my architect draw it up that way, and I'll talk to my roofer and make sure, but I would think that would make it a lot better than what it currently is designed as. So, yes, I'll plan on that.
Anybody else? This thing works. Does anybody else have any questions for the applicant? Any discussion on the submission? Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion to move on the COA as presented.
So moved?
Motion to approve? Okay, motion to approve and seeking a second.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Good luck to you. All right, moving on to our second agenda item is the COA for 114 South Meridian Street, second floor window replacement. We'll hear from staff first.
Thank you, Casey. 114 South Meridian Street, LLC. Travis Stouffer as the owner. 114 South Meridian Street is the location. The property is zoned central business. This property has been before the HPC on May 4th of 2023 and received a COA to replace the first floor storefront windows and complete brick restoration on the structure, which included paint removal, tuck pointing, brick replacement. The classification of the building is contributing, a building which is less than 50 years old and which is compatible with its historic surroundings, or a building which is over 40 years old and whose historic character remains but does not rise to the level of notable or outstanding. This building is included in the National Register of Historic Places, Lebanon Courthouse Square Historic District. Just a lot to get out. I'm gonna make an abbreviation for that as we move forward in some of these reports. We can go to an acronym on that, I think. The action requested tonight is, as Casey mentioned, second floor window replacement. The applicant is seeking approval to replace the current second floor vinyl windows with black aluminum windows. This work is in addition to the first floor black aluminum storefront windows and brick restoration that was approved at the May 4th, 2023 HPC meeting. The second floor windows are the same size as the existing replacement windows, which fit the original openings. The windows are single hung. There are 10 total windows, 6 on the east elevation, 2 on the west elevation, and 2 on the east elevation. The windows submitted in this request will match the windows approved for the replacement windows on the first floor and provide a more complete project when done together. Staff believes the replacement windows proposed are more appropriate than the current existing replacement windows. Staff recommends to approve the COA as submitted.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Derek?
I've got, just so you can see, there's the current windows. There's the back of the building. That is the north facing, and this is the south facing. You've seen it. This window's been used in a lot of the other replacements. This is just the cut sheet for those windows. So, as mentioned, black aluminum. That's all I have.
Any questions for Derek? Any questions for the applicant? One on there's a couple windows or window openings that are bricked up. Are any thoughts on those in the future?
As far as,
Are opening those back up, or are those staying bricked up?
those will stay bricked up. So basically, everything will stay as is. It's just going to get,
Just a direct window
little
replacement.
refresh.
Okay.
The paint will all be removed and what have you. Well, I guess that part's already, yeah, we don't have to go down that road. But yeah, just the windows that are existing currently.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? With that, I would entertain a motion for the COA.
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve, seeking a second.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. You're all set.
Thank you.
And keeping this train moving along here, we have our last COA for this evening, which is 201 Courthouse Square, the Boone County Courthouse. We'll hear from staff first.
A pretty important address in the inventory here. So, the last application of the evening, save the best for last. Not the best for last, the biggest project for last, I suppose. The applicant tonight is the Boone County Commissioners. The location is 201 Courthouse Square, also known as the Boone County Courthouse. The property is zoned central business. This property has not been before the HPC. The classification of this building is outstanding, a building which is more than 40 years old and is of significant architecture or historical significance that is listed or may be listed in the National Register of Historic Places. Outstanding structures may be of local, state, or national importance. This building is included in the National Register of Historic Places Lebanon Courthouse Square Historic District, and it is also on the register as a structure itself. The action requested tonight is window replacement. Lots of windows in this building. The applicant is seeking approval to replace windows throughout. Windows on the first, second, and third floor will be replaced with new aluminum-clad windows, black in color on the exterior. The windows around the raised rotunda and basement level will be bid to include alternates for painting the existing windows black or removing and replacing with windows to match existing detail, aluminum-clad black in color. Window details can be found on the set of drawings that were included in your packet on page A600.3. The trim features that are not being replaced, such as the second floor door system, decorative iron rail features found in some windows, and existing aluminum louvers will be painted black as identified in the attached plans. The proposed windows will replace wooden thermal painting replacement windows that were installed in the late 1980s. Best information we have is 1989 is when that was done. And they've been painted several times since then. In fact, I think some of them are painted shut at this point, many of them, if not all. Many historic Indiana government buildings have windows with dark trim. Historic pictures of the Boone County Courthouse show windows that were originally trimmed in a dark color. These are black and white images that we have, so it's kind of hard to tell exactly what color, but if not black, certainly like a bronze or brown color of some sort. The existing wooden replacement windows have been painted shut, and there is evidence of thermal seal failure in some of the windows. A new replacement window will help energy efficiency and provide a product that is less demanding to maintain. Staff does not believe there is any reason the current replacement windows should be considered historic. The opening size is significantly the most important design element. Etica, saying that correctly? Okay, created a replacement plan that is respectful to the outstanding rating for this building. The black trim color is closer to the original trim color than the current color of white. Staff recommendation is to approve the COA as submitted. It's funny, today we were talking internally in a staff meeting, and somebody brought up that the white trim of the existing windows almost give it kind of a vinyl window replacement look. So, I never thought of it in that way, but once that was said, it was like, yeah, that kind of makes some sense for sure. So I certainly think the proposed replacement windows will far outshine the existing replacement windows. So here are some fun pictures to look at, certainly. This is a picture of, cars that's probably 50s. You can see that in this picture, kind of hard to tell, there's definitely a darker trim around the window. Features. The best one to see, let me see if I can find that one, is this one right here. This is a much earlier picture, still dealing with horses and buggies. So you're looking at probably a picture of the courthouse very closely to after it was finished. And you can definitely see that it had darker trim, even in the rotunda windows at the top and throughout the building. And picture labeled "Women on the Wall." It's almost a Picasso. The original jail in the background there. Here's a picture kind of one, this is, you could take a picture of any number of the windows that are currently in the building, and this is kind of what you're gonna see. I don't know how often the maintenance schedule is to paint these things, but this has many, many coats of paint on it. And it would be a giant effort to, at this point, to remove all the paint and refinish these windows, certainly cost prohibitive. And then the other, attachment in your packet was the actual construction plans. I'm not going to go through those. I think you've probably had a chance to look at all those, but it shows the details that I described in my staff report. So with that, it was a pretty important decision here, but that's all I have to say on this one. Yeah, and the applicant is here.
Okay. Any questions for Derek at this time? Any comments from the applicant, whether the construction or Boone County? Either one of you? You have questions?
I do, and I'll borrow your
Yep, go ahead.
Hi. The one question I have is just about the black. I saw that it's submitted as basis of design, Pella Reserve. Excited to see, for one, I think very happy to see the replacement happening. and dark is absolutely the way to go. I'm just curious, are they being custom painted or are these standard stock colors?
The intent would be, so we specify multiple manufacturers, so we're going to utilize a standard color. So there could be some degree of variation, but I think the concept will be that we try to use a standard color because that provides the most cost-effective solution to the county. But we've looked at all the manufacturers' colors. They're generally very consistent with the darks.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I appreciate the construction documents. That was nice to be able to see all the detail, and I know this is going to be a pretty heavy project to do, so it was nice to be able to see all the detail with that. If there's no other discussion, I would entertain a motion on the COA.
I'll make a motion to approve the COA as presented.
Motion, and I'll make a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Any other agenda items coming before the commission? Staff report, if any? No staff report. Well, with that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll see you next month. Thank you.